What things have you overheard that broke your heart? Story 1. About 15 years ago, I was at a local casino when they were dragging a woman out for causing a disturbance. She was screaming, "He's spending our rent money." Apparently, her partner was at the gambling table and wouldn't stop playing, and she was trying to intervene. It made me incredibly sad. Story 2. I overheard a maintenance worker at my apartment complex arguing with his drunk wife one night. Their son, her stepson about 5 years old, yelled, "I hate you, you're not my dad." I'm pretty sure the guy started crying afterward. He's actually a really good person. Story 3. In line at Taco Bell, I was annoyed at how long a woman and her son were taking until I realized what was happening. They were counting pennies to pay. The kid said, "It's okay, Mom, we don't need the food." I swear it felt like I was on the set of a live Charles Dickens story. You could tell they didn't have much. The mom looked malnourished, both were skinny. I stepped up to the counter and said, "No, how much is it?" "It's a holiday gift from your neighbor." The woman tried to refuse, but I insisted. It wasn't some grand act of charity, just about $3. I paid more than they needed and she thanked me. It didn't make me feel much better though. All I could think about was, what are they going to do for breakfast? Story 4. A friend of mine got drunk at a barbecue outing where her kids and husband were also present. When they told her someone would drive her home, she lost it. I hurried her kids into my car, not because I had keys but because I didn't want them to hear their awful mother. Her older son asked what was wrong with her and I explained, "Mommy just drank too many bad things and it's made her sick. She'll feel better later." He said, "Oh, she's drunk again." I felt so horrible. Her younger daughter was crying and asked, "How long until Mommy feels better?" I didn't know what to say. I hated everything about that night. Story 5. My daughter, just over a year old, goes to an in-home daycare during the week while we're at work. There's another little girl there with a physical disability affecting her legs. Her parents drop her off with a wheelchair and braces for assisted walking. She's an adorable, always happy kid who crawls and scoots around the floor during playtime. A few weeks ago, I was dropping off my daughter and talking to the daycare provider about how my daughter was starting to walk. The other girl overheard and immediately turned to me and said, "No, I want Lily to stay on the floor with me." It broke my heart. Story 6. At a restaurant in Florida, I saw a girl about 10 years old order from the menu. When she finished, her mother said, "You really messed up again. This time trust yourself. Do you want to need a tummy tuck when you're 20? What's wrong with you?" The waiter was told to give them a few more minutes. The girl wasn't even that overweight and now she was crying hysterically. The mom kept yelling at her to stop embarrassing her and making a scene. I'm a guy, was about 22 at the time, and seriously considered the consequences of punching the mom in the face. Story 7. This isn't exactly something I overheard, but last week, I was hanging out at a friend's house around midnight when a bunch of police cars and an ambulance showed up at the neighbor's place. We noticed the cops talking to the kid who lives there, a good friend of my friend's son. Let's call him Martin, about 7 years old. After the police left, Martin was sitting outside, so we called him over to check if everything was okay. We assumed something happened to his grandpa who lives with him because of the ambulance. But as soon as we said, "Hey Martin, what was going on?" he instantly shouted, "Nobody hits me. My dad doesn't hit me." It hit us hard. The domestic violence Martin's living with messed me up. Story 8. In high school, I worked at a grocery store and had to work in dairy one day, stocking shelves from behind in a big walk-in cooler all day so people couldn't see me. I overheard a little girl chattering and was half listening until she asked, "Mommy, when's Daddy coming home?" The mom hesitated and said, "We've talked about this." The girl got really quiet. I like to think the dad was just on a trip, but it still felt heartbreaking. Story 9. A woman came into the pawn shop where I work. She was a regular for about 3 years but hadn't been back in a few weeks, so I was surprised to see her. She needed a big loan. Turns out, she'd hired a babysitter so she could go downtown with friends. She didn't trust the babysitter, so she took all the cash from her drawer, money for rent, bills, and food for her 2 young kids, in case the babysitter went through her stuff. At first, I thought it was foolish to carry that much cash, but I'm used to customers not having bank accounts. Then I learned it was a lie. She took the money downtown and gambled every cent on VLT machines. She laughed about it, saying, "Yeah, it's kind of an addiction, but what can you do?" The worst part? She tried to tell me I was responsible for her kids' empty stomachs when I didn't give her the loan amount she wanted. I see this kind of thing so often, it makes my job really depressing. Story 10. About a year ago, I was waiting for a train, and there was some commotion at the station. A police car was parked nearby, and someone mentioned a girl on the tracks. As I climbed the stairs to my train, 2 cops were dragging a girl, maybe 15, right in front of me. Her crying was almost inhuman, not just crying but screaming incoherently. She was wearing a bright pink jacket. One officer tried to calm her down, saying something like, "That's a nice jacket you've got." She stopped screaming long enough to respond, and her words still haunt me. "I wanted my parents to know who I was." Think about what she was trying to say. Story 11. My mom runs the after-school program at her school for kids aged 3 to 6. One mom, whose 3-year-old son is in the program, always picks him up at 5:59 p.m., a minute before aftercare ends. She completely ignores him, staring at her phone and barking orders if he doesn't move fast enough. One day he made a coloring or art project and wanted to show her. She snatched it from his hands, crumpled it, and said, "You think I need to be bothered with this right now?" My mom ended up talking to the principal, and the school's social worker met with the mom about appropriate behavior on school grounds. I still want to punch that woman. Story 12. About 5 years ago, I was walking home from the store since I didn't have a car. A kid, probably 4 or 5, and his mom were walking hand in hand, likely to a nearby park. They were chatting about trees and gardens outside people's houses. Things got quiet for a moment, then the kid dropped a bombshell. "Mommy, why did Daddy die?" He didn't say it sadly, almost curiously. The mom looked devastated, started crying, and sped up. I don't think she was deliberately ignoring him, she just didn't have the words to explain. I thought about it the whole way home and hugged my dad that night. Story 13. I work at a castle that hosts medieval banquets, where we serve free wine for 2.5 hours. Plenty of time to get very drunk if you try. One day, as the banquet was wrapping up and we were saying goodbye to guests, a woman, pretty drunk, was banging on walls, knocking things off, and insulting me, my manager, and my manager's boss who was visiting. Her husband was outside in the smoking area, ignoring the situation, and sent their son, about 8 years old, to get her out of the building. The kid was saying, "Come on, Mom, it's time to go. Dad says we have to leave now, the castle's closing," etc. You could hear in his voice that he'd seen this behavior before, pleading, sad but resigned. We got her out the door. My colleagues and I changed out of our costumes and collected our tips. About 5 minutes later, I walked out and headed to my car. I found the woman a few meters down the gravel path. She'd gone to look at the bay view, the castles by the sea, slipped and fallen into brambles, covered in blood from 100 small cuts. Her son was crouched next to her, like Simba trying to wake Mufasa after the stampede, saying, "Come on, Mom, you can do it. Just try to stand. I know you can, Mom, please, please try." His voice had tears, but his eyes didn't. The dad? He was at the end of the path, 60 meters away, leaning against a wall, smoking a cigarette, not caring at all. I walked up to him and told him to get his car and bring it to the path since his wife couldn't walk to the parking lot. He was as distant as Viserys Targaryen, strolling casually to the lot. Me and 2 other staff members got her up and cleaned her cuts with a workplace first aid kit. By then she was manic, laughing, gurgling, smearing blood on us. Her son was ashamed, almost crying. God, I was so sad and angry driving home that night.